This is a Hot Pie Original.
Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to the DNP-CD Sports Podcast, presented by OddsShark. I am Chad Fisher, alongside my co-host, Tony Farmer. Tony, how you doing, brother?
I'm doing awesome. I couldn't be better because we have a great show today.
We do.
NFL draft analyst and Denver Broncos beat writer Benjamin Allbright. It's going to be a fun one.
It really is, man. I can't wait. We got a lot of interesting questions to ask him. It's going to be great.
Yeah, with the draft coming up. And with the draft coming up, this is going to be an interesting show and an interesting time of year, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because people are placing a lot of prop bets on who's going to get drafted when, how many offensive players are going to come off the board. So I want people to know out there, if this is your first time making a wager, you've never made a sports bet in your life, head on over to OddsShark, right? And make sure you check out their bonuses, because when you sign up for a website, they'll offer you a bonus and you can shop around and pick your website that way.
Yeah, OddsShark is your source for the latest odds from leading authorities, expert editorial content, the hottest sports news, and detailed matchup picks. If you're looking for statistics and trends for an upcoming game, OddsShark has that too, and it's absolutely free. They've got in-depth expert analysis, odds, and trends to help you make the Shark game day picks. They've got decades of stats in their databases, and their insiders give you takes so hot they sizzle. They're your one-stop shop for all your odds info on sports and pop culture events.
Yeah, so whether you're a beginner, like I mentioned before, you've been doing this a long time and you're a seasoned, sharp veteran, you want to get a better understanding of the odds, the math behind the numbers, how the lines are set, why do the lines move during the week in the NFL, for instance. You can get all this information at OddsShark. They have the tools that you need. They're a premier industry powerhouse. OddsShark has info from around the globe, giving you the chance to access the best sports odds on the planet. So whether you want to check out tonight's odds or maybe prepare for the weekend a little bit, anything in between, head on over to OddsShark and start thinking like a shark today.
Yes, and that's ODDSSHARK.com. Okay, before we get into our interview with Benjamin Allbright, we're going to do a brief betting segment brought to you by OddsShark. Tony, what's some of the lines you're looking at here, brother?
Man, do you remember our last episode when Pam Maldonado mentioned the Washington football team?
Yeah, definitely.
So she intrigued me. So honestly, they weren't on my radar. She brought that up. And so then I went on OddsShark and I saw that they were 66-1 in one outfit. And so that's definitely a pizza money worthy bet.
Might as well,
there,
right?
For sure. But we talked about the NFL futures in our last episode. So maybe we can mix things up with some NBA odds on OddsShark.com.
That's my stuff right there, man.
Yeah, that's Chad's wheelhouse.
Yeah, it's right in my wheelhouse. I'm looking at Dallas, man. They're 50-1 on one site, 45, 40. You know what I'm saying? I don't think that's a bad. You never know what could happen. There could be some injuries in the Western Conference, as we've seen all season. You know, LeBron's been hurt. Anthony Davis has been hurt. You have no idea what's going on with them. Luka Doncic is the guy that could catch fire, that could carry a team. I feel like they've got some decent matchups, you know what I'm saying, that they could exploit with some of these teams that they're going up against in the West. And a lot of it's going to be about injuries, man. And I feel like, for the most part, Dallas has been healthy this year. No major injuries to Luka and everything like that, to their core anyways. I think that's a good bet to place right there.
It's a good point. When you're looking at the odds, you see some 45-1s, 45-1s, and then that 50-1 sticks out. And that's kind of the best number right off of oddshark.com for sure. And I like those I call them mid-range. It's not the crazy 200-1s that are never going to happen. I really don't want to put my money on a 4-1 or a 3-1. I like those mid-range, like 30-40 or 50-1 picks. That's a good one, man.
Even Utah, maybe. Utah's 8.5-1 on some sites, and then 8-1 on another one. That's not a bad pick because, like I said, once again, with the injuries that are going on, you never know what could happen, and that's a team that's kind of been very consistent all year long. So I think that's a great pick too,
dude. I like, how about both? Yeah. Right. So put like a bigger wager on Utah because that's more likely to happen, and then you back it up with a little bit of Dallas action.
Yeah. Why not
go into the playoffs with those two picks?
I think that's smart. I would stay away from the Cleveland Cavaliers though. They're not going to win it this year. They're like 150-1 or something. What is it? What do we 200 300-1 300-1. Yeah, I don't think that's going to happen.
Those are fun to fantasize about, the what ifs, right?
I wish,
for
man.
Sure.
I wish.
Yeah, but we'd love to hear from you on social media, after you go to OddsShark, if there's any that you like and any lines that intrigue you, whether it's NBA, NFL, we'd definitely like to hear what intrigues you.
Yeah, definitely. There's all kinds of great lines on here, man. I see Brooklyn at 2.5. I mean, you might throw down, $50 or $100 on that right quick, because I feel like when they're healthy, no one can beat them. As talented as the Lakers are, there's nobody more talented than the Brooklyn Nets, in my opinion. They have immense star power. So I think that's a decent bet as well.
Yeah, and I don't disagree with you. It sure is the most likely scenario to happen. I like to stay away from those short numbers, but I mean, that's just my style as a bettor. You might have your own betting style out there and want to take Chad's advice and hit that one up.
Yeah, I would.
Yeah, there we go.
Yeah, so check that out for sure. So let's just go ahead and bring our guest in. Our guest today is a host, reporter, and analyst for the Denver Broncos flagship station, KOA Colorado. And he has the self-proclaimed second most accurate NFL mock draft of 2020, which we're definitely going to ask him about. You can listen to his interviews on BroncosCountryTonight.com. Please welcome to the show Denver Broncos insider and draft analyst, Benjamin Allbright. Benjamin, how you doing, brother? Thanks for coming on the show, man. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for having me. And honestly, I wish that I was arrogant enough to go with self-proclaimed, but that's actually there are grading services out there.
Oh shit! Okay.
Nice.
Yeah, I wish I were arrogant enough to have thought of that, because I totally would have done that.
You should have done that, man. I was gonna say you shouldn't have said second. You should have been like the most accurate.
Well, it's important to remain some aspect of humility.
Yeah, you got to, man. There's so much interesting stuff going on. With the draft just a few days away, you specialize in the Broncos. We want to talk about them a little bit. Denver finished 5-11 last year. They lost their last 3 games. They were 28th in scoring and in the bottom third of the league in running the football. Do you think they've addressed any of these issues with free agency, or do you think that most of their problems they're going to try and address via the draft this year?
Well, I think in terms of the offensive side of the ball, the only really free agent move they made was Mike Boone. So I don't know that they've necessarily addressed that in free agency. I would say that the way that they're addressing that is more through coaching in the hope of maturation. I mean, if you look at the offense that they have a very, very young offense. You look at last year, they had Cortland Sutton out. He was only his 3rd year anyway. Jerry Jeudy, KJ Hamler, both rookies. Tim Patrick has been around the league a few years, but really hadn't been a starter. Noah Fant, 2nd year up. Webenon was in his first year. Really the veteran that they had was Melvin Gordon, and then some guys, on the offensive line. So I think that in terms of the offense, in terms of addressing things there, you might have some people point to the quarterback position and the need for improved and consistent play there. But beyond that, I don't think that the draft or free agency are really the fixes there. I think growth and maturation are.
How far off do you think they are? I mean, it's tough when you're sharing a division with the Kansas City Chiefs, and as much parity as there is in the NFL, and tell me if you disagree, I don't see a path in the next year or 2 for the Broncos to overtake the Chiefs and be at the top of that division. How far out do you think they are from getting that rebuild complete and being at the top of that division?
Well, let's start by framing what a rival would mean. And for me, I think that would be making the playoffs again, because that's a whole new season. Once you make the playoffs, it's anything goes. And so from that perspective, I think they could be a wild card team right now. Even with Drew Lock. I think that if Drew Lock can cut the turnovers in half, they're a wild card football team. That said, I mean, they had the #1 defense in the red zone last year, and that was with 8 starters out. And they were down to like corners 6, 7, and 9, I think, by the end of the season, last quarter of the season. I mean, they were hurting for bodies. I threw a tape together, put it in there, and they had me in for a workout. I mean, it was.
He's like, we're gonna put this motherfucker on special teams.
If we could just get a 40-year-old washed, not fast to begin with guy, that'd really put us over the top.
Yeah, that's all we're missing.
Yeah, it's a secret ingredient, right? No, I think I think they could be a wild card football team with a couple of breaks going their way, a maturation on the offense, and cut the turnovers down a little bit, and that's without adding somebody. Now you start looking at maybe adding somebody, some quarterback competition, whether that's a veteran, whether you trade for somebody like a Gardner Minshew, Nick Foles, or Teddy Bridgewater, or whether you add somebody in the draft. I think that I really do think that they're on the cusp of being a very exciting football team. The defense is kind of already there if they can stay healthy. The offense just needs to take a step forward and kind of grow up.
Yeah, so we want to talk about the draft here in a little bit, but you alluded to it there a little bit. Everyone wants to know what's going on with the quarterback situation in Denver. Drew Lock seemed to be inconsistent, which is true of most young quarterbacks. He had 16 touchdowns and 15 interceptions last year. Do you think he's the guy? Has he shown you enough, or do you think that that's a position that still needs to be solved?
I think the correct answer to that for me is both. I don't think he's shown that he's the guy. Because if he had, we wouldn't be having this conversation, right?
Yeah.
But I do think that he at times has shown enough to warrant, maybe giving it another year or at least a training camp to kind of take a look and see if he can do that. I mean, the guy's got 17 total starts in the league in two wildly different offenses.
Yeah.
The first year they had Rich Scangarello, which is kind of a Shanahan variant, wide zone, hyper conservative passing offense. And then last year they kind of had an edict to go vertical. The Broncos had the highest average depth of target, the most vertical offense down the field, despite being like the youngest offense in the league.
Wow.
So I think if you find the marriage of the two there, I think you might have something. That said, if it's me and my job's on the line, like Vic Fangio, Pat Shurmur, George Payton, not really because he just signed a 6-year deal, but like the coaching staff, we probably want to invest in a hedge. We probably want somebody that doesn't have to be a world beater, but at the same time provides us with the consistency and the ability to push the ball down the field a little bit and not turn it over that we need. So people were talking about trading for Teddy Bridgewater. I'm like, well, Teddy Bridgewater started 15 games last year, through for 15 touchdowns, which, by the way, is the most he's ever thrown in his career in any season.
I didn't know that.
Locke had 16 in 12 games.
Yeah,
right.
Right. So I think that there's plus and minuses. Now, if you cut the interceptions in half for Locke, all of a sudden you got something. So for me, I think that's really what it is. I think you bring Drew Lock back in training camp, but you bring him back with competition at some level. And my problem with drafting somebody is that I don't think Justin Fields or Trey Lance, who are probably the quarterbacks that you're looking at, maybe Mac Jones, in that range where they're drafting, I don't think any of those guys are beating Drew Lock out. So if you're drafting a guy and they're not going to beat him out, what are you doing drafting him in the first place?
Right. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. If I can jump in. So you alluded a couple times to Locke's interceptions. When you look at those interceptions that he's thrown, is there a theme of what's going wrong? Is he going through his progressions too fast? Like what specifically do you think might need to be corrected in order for him to take that next step you're talking about and cut down on those interceptions?
I think it's a couple of things. I think one of them is kind of that youthful arrogance. You know how young quarterbacks are. They play yoga ball in college and they think they're going to get away with it. The pros. And Drew has a bit of that. He's got that athletic arrogance. Sometimes that's a good thing. Sometimes it's not. So I think that's a part of it. I think some of the time he just didn't see the underneath the guy, and that's certainly a problem and cause for concern. And then some of it was just fluke type stuff that happens. So I think it's, if you're putting a pie chart together, it's not like it's all one thing. It's just like, two pie charts. You got yellow and it's the same thing, but in red. It's like, we don't have that going on. But I think it's a combination of a guy who, had to put everybody on his back in college and kind of had to make certain throws and kind of got away with it in college. And then, you get to the pros and you can't see it, throw it anymore. You got to know where people are. You got to throw the football. You got to be able to identify. I think the other part of it was he was kind of throwing off platform a lot. The center position on the offensive line, they had a rookie in Lloyd Cushenberry, and Lloyd was okay in the run game, but in the pass game, he really lacked the functional strength to hold up. And if you really want to see some hilarious tape, go throw on the Atlanta Falcons game and watch Grady Jarrett like one hand that dude back into Drew Lock's lap almost every play. That's Grady Jarrett, right? Like Grady Jarrett might be the second best defensive tackle in football behind Aaron Donald. Might be, but like that's still a grown man putting another grown man in another dude's lap with one hand, and like it's like when Chris Dudley got dunked on by Shaq. It's still going to be embarrassing.
It still is.
Yeah, what's encouraging to me about that is it sounds like some of this is correctable. I mean, if you shore up the offensive line a little bit through coaching, you can help cut down on some of those mistakes. If you were sitting here telling me, oh, the problem is arm strength or, something like that can't be fixed. This sounds correctable. And I think maybe leaves some potential for some optimism in the minds of some Broncos fans.
I think it's part of it. And I think so the Broncos, they came into this George Payton era thinking, well, if we have an opportunity to appreciably upgrade the quarterback room, we'll do that. But we're not doing, we're not doing parallels. We're not doing, we're not keeping things the same just to keep things the same. So they kind of got in on the Matt Stafford deal just a little bit, trying to trade for him, but they wouldn't give up Locke to do it.
Oh, wow.
And that was part of it. Like, I think they still wanted to kind of groom him and see what he could be. They would have been in on Deshaun Watson, but they didn't really want to move Locke, to kind of do it. They weren't going to be in on like Carson Wentz or Sam Darnold because none of those represented appreciable upgrades. So I think that they recognize that there's a possibility there, but they also need to hedge just in case that doesn't work out.
Yeah, I think that's smart on their part because a lot of those guys you talked about, you don't really know what you're getting with those guys. Like you said, Teddy Bridgewater, most touchdowns, the best season he had was last year with 15 touchdowns. That's not like something you're going to write home to mom about,
But so. Teddy has a cult following. You know what I mean? People who like Teddy Bridgewater love Teddy Bridgewater. I lived in Minnesota for a little while. And again, you look at the numbers, but they go up. It's the intangibles. He's a winner. Whatever it is about the guy, people that love him, love him.
Yeah, at their own peril, I guess. We want to ask you about the face of the franchise, Von Miller. He's a hot topic, obviously, with everything that's gone on with him in the last couple of years. Do you think keeping him was the right move? There was a little bit of chatter, I guess. I'm a Browns fan. There was a little bit of wishful thinking on our part, so we were going to get him somehow. Do you think keeping him was the right move? And how much of a step do you think he's lost? Has he lost a step, or has it just been injuries that I guess we'll find out this year?
Well, it's a combination of things. And I do think they made the right decision because this allows them to kind of look and see if they want to offer him one more deal and, and see where he's at in that process. Picking up this option was a little bit overpriced, but it also kind of rewards Von for what he's done for the franchise over the last decade, that kind of thing. And they more than got the money. I mean, the Broncos are like a top 3 cap space team. So it wasn't like it was killing him or anything. I think the thing to remember with Von is 2 years ago when Vic Fangio got here, they switched to that defense. They went from the Wade Phillips defense, which is an attack the quarterback with anything, put your corners out on an island, man. And it's kind of what you see with Joe Woods now. You're attacking up front, and you put the corners out on an island, and you kind of maybe play a cover one or robber, middle of the field closed defense, right? Mm-hmm. The Vic Fangio philosophy is totally different. It's send the least amount of people at the quarterback I need to get home, and drop everybody else back and try to pick him off. Mm-hmm. And so for guys like Von Miller, who are used to just going downhill, going after the quarterback, and having to adjust to, hey, go into the blocker, make my first move, read the quarterback, and then drop back to hook if I need to, if the back's hit the flat, or drop back into a hook zone to take the tight end. It takes him out of some pass rush situations, which some people might say is a waste of Von Miller's talent, and I hear that argument. But at the same time, it requires a different thing of him. So his sack totals went down in that first year, and people were kind of like looking at that and saying, "Oh, Von Miller's lost a step." Reality is he was still got the most pressures in the NFL of any guy. But the getting home part didn't exactly quite materialize. And then last year, he came into training camp in the best shape I've ever seen him in. And I've been out here in Denver since 2012. That's the best shape I've ever seen him in. And it's just a freak accident there right towards the end of training camp. Kind of derailed everything. So I'm interested to see him come back this year and take a look and see where he's at. I don't think he's lost a step. I really don't. I think that what's required of him now on the off the edge is just different than what it was the first 8-9 years of his career.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see because he's one of my. I love that dude. I love watching him play. Yeah. He's a really awesome guy to watch play. It's going to be interesting to see how he comes back from injury this year.
Yeah,
I'm really looking forward to it.
Everybody remembers that Super Bowl that he just absolutely dominated and took over the game. He's still capable of that. Before we start talking draft stuff, man, Chad and I both have a sports writing background, and I wanted to ask you, when you're interviewing guys, and I know on your show you've also interviewed veterans in addition to the players that are playing now. Do you have a guy that you enjoy interviewing because he's going to give you the good quotes? Like I remember looking at my tape recorder and I was like, man, I knew that was a good interview, but damn, that was good. When I start listening to the tape again, I'm wondering who are some guys that you can count on for a good quote?
Well, a couple of things. Let me give some background on that. First of all, I didn't come up in sports writing, so I don't have a journalism background at all.
Oh, okay.
So interviewing for me is an area I consider almost a weakness in a lot of ways.
No shit.
It's a craft I'm super cognizant of, and I want to work on. And I feel like that sometimes my interviewing style is a little too conversational, and that can be fun and that can be good, but sometimes it leads to me not following up in areas that I need to. I'll say that I've got a pretty good rapport with Justin Simmons, and so we always get some pretty good interviews going. Nice. But Justin's like a squeaky clean guy. I like those guys that are a little dirty,
Yeah,
you know what I'm talking about?
Same.
It's a little more real, right?
You're right. And so that's kind of the thing. Cause I'm kind of that guy. So I like to get into chop it up with those kind of guys a little bit. I'll tell you, locally in the locker room, Shelby Harris is a really good interview.
Nice.
My favorite all-time interview was Shaq Barrett.
Oh, okay.
And we sat down and we were chatting about stuff, and we just got off on a tangent. And this is back when he was a rotational player with the Broncos. I mean, he was not Shaq Barrett like he is now. And I just got to messing with him a little bit. And I was like, man, you're on a pretty stacked pass rushing core. You got DeMarcus Ware, you got Von Miller, you got all these linebackers. I'm like, when you're playing Madden, which one of your teammates do you sub out to put yourself in? Like that moment for me was like, that was one of my favorites. But that was like, there are some guys that, there are some moments where you just had that banter, you just had that conversational pattern. I think that's for me what it's about. I don't know if there's anybody out there specifically. I mean, Peyton Manning always makes you look good. He's just that. He makes everybody look good with everything he does, whether it's receivers catching the ball, whether it's dudes interviewing him. You could be the worst interview on the planet, and you're interviewing Peyton Manning, he's going to set you up.
Yeah. He made SNL good, which is very hard to do.
right. So like that's the thing. There are guys that get it, and then there are guys that like Royce Freeman is a very smart guy, but he's like the worst interview on the planet. It's super quick with his answers. He's like, yes.
Yeah, I had a few of those too, and you dreaded it sometimes. Yep, it's like pulling teeth.
So there's some guys need to be coached up. Like Jerry Jeudy is fun to talk to, not a great interview. Yeah. Tim Patrick on the Broncos, great interview. Alexander Johnson, he's probably the best example I could think of a guy who was not a great interview to start, but is now. And so like, it's just fun to watch those progressions. But I think for me, it's the guys that are more, I say like guys that aren't squeaky clean, the guys that have a little edge to them. Those are always a lot more fun because the interview always goes in a direction you never expected. And if you got the chops to kind of roll with it, those are always the most fun for me. Sorry, super long answer there.
No, that's a great answer, man. That was awesome.
I like the guys that show up into the locker room like hungover and half drunk from the night before and shit. They're just like, yeah, man. There's no filter.
Enough about me. The
players. Hey, did Shaq Barrett? I know your question was more of a joke than anything about Madden, but did he answer the question?
He did, actually.
What did he say?
We got him on tape answering the question. Like he tried to dance around it at first. And then he actually told us that he took Danny Trevathan out and made himself a middle linebacker just to have more guys that can rush the passer up front. So we shared that with Danny in the locker room with Shaq. And it was great. Like Danny Trevathan's like, man, why you gotta do me like that,
man? That's hilarious, man.
Oh, that's good stuff. The stuff the fans don't get to see.
Yeah,
that's
exactly.
awesome. That's an awesome story, man. Appreciate you sharing that.
So we want to transition into the draft now with this coming up. It's like everyone's talking about in the sports world right now. What do you think are the Broncos' most pressing needs going into the draft? I know when you're 5-11 and you're young, like the Broncos are, you probably have a lot of needs. But what do you perceive as the most glaring need for the team this year?
I think that there's not any like jump out standout needs. I think they need another inside linebacker to pair up with Alexander Johnson, who's on an RFA last year, his deal anyway. Josie Jewell is a good run fits guy, but has the athletic profile of me when it comes to trying to cover tight ends in the league. So I just they tried to hide him at times, and that's a problem. Like he's just not a great guy going away from the ball. Sure, tackler, great special teams, leader in the locker room, all that stuff. But when you're getting roasted by fullbacks in the league, it's a problem.
Yeah, that's a problem.
I love Josie, but you got to upgrade the athletic profile there. So I would say that's a need. You also need to replace Kareem Jackson. They brought him back on a 1-year deal that he kind of agreed to keep with the guys one more year, but he's 32 years old. They've got no depth behind him and Justin Simmons. So that's the thing. I really just think that they need to turn the defense over. We talked about Von Miller and, in his age at this point. You look along that defensive line, you got Shelby Harris and Mike Purcell on big money deals, and they're letting Draymond come in and take over for Jarrell Casey. But you've just got a lot of guys that have gotten up there in age. The corner position, you have to figure that out. Bryce Callahan, you brought in Fuller, but those guys are on basically 1-year deals, and Callahan hasn't exactly been the epitome of reliability. So, I just think that depth and getting younger on defense needs to be the priority. Might want to take a run at right tackle. You're getting Juwan James back, and maybe this is the year he decides he wants to play football. But outside of that, he'll basically be on a 1-year deal. So you're going to have to figure out that part of it on the offensive line. The rest of the line's pretty set. And then everybody talks about quarterback, so I'm avoiding that one just because it's the only thing they talk about here in Denver.
Oh, I'm sure it is.
Yeah, but the big question, man, what do you think the Broncos are going to do with that number 9 pick? Do you think they're going to trade up? Do you think they're going to trade back? Do you think they're going to stay put and grab someone specific? What are you thinking, man?
Well, let me put this. I don't want to give too much away, but I'll say this. I don't think they want to move up. I don't think they want to. I think that if the right quarterback were to fall in their lap, that they would be very okay with that. And that would be part of the conversation. I think in a perfect world, they would have the confidence that Drew Lock would become the guy. They trade for a vet and they would move backwards and probably multiply their draft picks for future years and look at somebody like JOK there out of Notre Dame as the other inside backer, kind of a spur hybrid safety guy, or maybe even a running back like Najee Harris to give a 1-2 punch to Melvin Gordon and let Melvin Gordon go after the season. So, I think in a perfect world that would be the scenario. But I think if a certain quarterback happens to be there, I think that they would take him.
We got to ask you because me and Tony have been joking about this a lot. Mac Jones. So we say me and Tony are in agreement that I wouldn't. I mean, I haven't watched a ton of tape on this guy. Obviously, I don't. That's not what I'm doing. But we are in agreement that this dude spends like way too much time at McDonald's or some shit. This dude looks like
Have you seen the picture?
guy,
Have you seen the picture?
Yeah, he looks
dad
like
bod picture.
Yeah,
dude,
okay.
he looks like the dude that mows my lawn and shit. Like I'm not spending a first round pick on a guy that looks like he's got ho-hos in his backpack and shit. You know what I'm saying? Like I'm not gonna do that. But what's your take on him? Are we wrong or is the jury still out? Do you have any pulse on what type of player you think he's gonna be?
Well, first of all, I think you're absolutely right. I mean, I'm reasonably confident Mac Jones was the guy that tried to sell me paint at Home Depot last weekend. I think that
reasonably confident.
I think the things that he was also. I say reasonably confident. I was hungover, and he might have been the guy who was hanging out with the bar. I think that Mac Jones is the things that make Mac Jones great are the things that most people don't see. Mac Jones has an eidetic memory. He's great on the whiteboard. He's incredibly cerebral, and I think that that's the thing that the disconnect for most people is looking at the athletic profiles of Fields and Lance. They see on the tape, and they're like, "Yeah, those guys." And then they see Mac Jones with the body by Krispy Kreme, and they're like, "Hey, I don't know that I don't know if that's the guy, man." But you don't see the mind. Like you don't get to see the film, or you don't get to talk to coaches that are like, "Yeah, I gave this guy a base install thing back in February, and then we had a virtual Zoom meeting last week, and he recalled it. And by the way, he's doing that for 32 other teams. He recalled it from memory. Wow. And so I think that's the thing that people like about him. I talk to a lot of guys. Most of them don't believe the Niners are actually taking him at 3, but there are people that do. And so it's one of those things where it's really interesting to see how this thing's going to play out. I think that there are reasons to like him, but then you look at him and he's probably got the highest floor, but also the lowest ceiling out of these guys. I mean, like the range on him in terms of like, what are you going to coach up about it? What are you going to make him better at? Because he's already good at those things. So that's the thing that bugs me. It's like what you see is what you get. And at the end of the day, are you getting a less athletic Andy Dalton or are you getting Tom Brady? And you don't really know the answer to that. So that's the thing that bugs me about him. And I don't remember your original question because I think you got it. I don't have Mac Jones' memory. I'm like the anti-Mac Jones.
I'm just not going to spend a top 3 pick on a guy that looks like he got locked inside a Golden Corral for a summer. You know what I'm saying? Like I'm just not doing that shit.
And personally, I feel like that's living the dream. But at the same time,
touche.
Those buttery rolls are the truth.
Our guest next week is Mac Jones, by the way. No,
this segment brought to you by Golden Corral. Good stuff. Hey, you mentioned the 49ers at 3. I want to throw a theory out there at you that is becoming quite popular on Twitter. And the 49ers are the team that I follow most closely. And I'm starting to buy it, and you keep me in check if this is crazy. So right now, everybody, of course, is talking about the top 3 quarterback options that the 49ers are going to go after, right? We've talked about those 3 guys. The theory is that they're actually targeting Kyle Pitts and that right now they're loving the fact that everybody's debating which 3 quarterbacks because then nobody would want to potentially trade up to 2. And the reason that it's intriguing is because that offense with Kittle, Pitts, Ayuk, and Samuel, and Jimmy G, or whoever you got at quarterback, maybe draft a quarterback in the second or third round to compete with him. That is a scary offense, and one that you'd think would have Shanahan drooling. And Shanahan has the profile of he's the guy that likes to outsmart you.
Yeah.
And so he almost overthinks things at times. That's like his sort of fatal flaw, although he's a great coach. And so I know a lot of people have said no way they would trade up and get rid of 2 first-round picks for a non-quarterback.
For a wide receiver, tight
Is
end,
this a crazy idea, or is this in the realm of possibilities, you think?
All right. Well, first I'm going to lean into it, and then I'm going to debunk it.
All right.
So I happen to know that the Denver Broncos, back when Mike Shanahan was around, had a deal in place to move up for Calvin Johnson. They were going to move up with the Raiders and in division trade, move up to number 1 overall and take Calvin Johnson, who, by the way, is basically the same size and athletic profile as Kyle Pitts, right?
Yeah.
And then Davis backed out of it like the day before.
Wow.
With all that, yeah. So
how public is that? Let me ask you, how public is that you just shared with us?
I'm not 100% that that's super public now. I mean, it might be now. It wasn't at the time, but anyway, it was a thing. They were going to move up, and then the last second he flipped his mind and got talked into taking to Marcus Russell. And so they go,
wow.
Because
what a change of fortunes.
They went to bed the night before the draft thinking they had that thing in the bag, and they woke up the next morning and falling apart. Ooh. So I will say that moving up for skill position players is not beyond the realm of possibility in terms of how that stuff goes. That said, let's back up a little bit. I know from talking to people internally on that staff that they are dissatisfied with Jimmy Garoppolo. There's the staff, particularly at the top, specifically blames him for the Super Bowl loss, and not just the throw to Emmanuel Sanders. There were drive extender throws at any which point in there that he could have made that would have, that would have done that. And so throws, I happen to know internally that they are not okay with Jimmy Garoppolo. Wow. So that's where I'll debunk that and say that they moved up for a quarterback, and that's going to be the pick. Now, I will also tell you this: Zach Wilson is the number 1 quarterback on their board, not Trevor Lawrence.
Wow.
So per somebody on the staff there that they value him more highly. I don't know if number 1 on the board's the right phrase, but they like Zach Wilson a lot better. So if the Jets pulled a rabbit out of a hat and took Fields at 2, Zach Wilson would absolutely be the pick at 3.
Oh, wow.
Now let me throw this out there. So the Jets' new coach is Saleh. He's buddy with Shanahan. Did Shanahan know who the Jets were targeting before they traded up to 3?
That's a good.
I mean, they're buddy, but they're also, of course, you know what I mean? So or does Shanahan, even if he didn't share the information, does he say, I know Saleh, I know what he wants, therefore I feel more confident in who will be available at 3?
That's interesting.
Right. Not just Saleh, LaFleur too, the OC. I mean, obviously the OC last year. So yes. And they did. And then both those staffs have Zach Wilson as their guy. Like that's the thing. There's people, when it was put out there, and there's been a couple of people I think now that have said it, that Zach Wilson is number 1 on their board. I could tell you there are a couple of teams that absolutely have Zach Wilson over Trevor Lawrence. Does that mean everybody does? Absolutely not. And the Jaguars are going to take Trevor Lawrence, and he may well be the best quarterback out of this class. Although 6'6", 213 pounds is the body of a high school small forward, not an NFL quarterback.
Yeah, that's true.
And especially a guy who takes a lot of hits. But like Bill Belichick really likes Zach Wilson. So I think that to make a short story incredibly long, they're going to take a quarterback, and I always love the outside the box thinking on that kind of stuff. And that'd be super cool if if that happened just from the chaos perspective, and I would love it. But I know enough internally to know that they're targeting quarterback.
Chad, let's take a quick second to tell folks about one of our favorite sponsors, Alfonso Murray with Mutual of Omaha.
Yeah, Tony, go fund yourself.
Damn.
Yeah, you know how important life insurance is. Go fund yourself with life, disability, or Medicare coverage licensed in Texas, Maine, and Colorado. For more information, go to alfonzomurray.com.
Yeah, that's ALFONZOMURRAY.com.
For the best life insurance through Mutual of Omaha with Alfonso Murray, that's alfonzomurray.com. So you alluded to it there. This is definitely a big-time quarterback-heavy draft, maybe more so than I've seen in my lifetime. What's your take on the quarterbacks not named Trevor Lawrence? Is in your mind, is Zach Wilson the clear-cut number 2? And if you were the Jets and the Niners, what would you do with the second and third picks?
Well, let me back up a little bit here. Just because a lot of quarterbacks get taken early doesn't mean it's a good quarterback class. Like everybody's down on next year's class, but I think next year's class has more viable guys. It might not be as top heavy, but I think next year's class has more viable guys. Like there's 4 guys, maybe 5 guys in this class, right? Everybody after those big 5, like we're not really expecting Davis Mills or Kellen Mond to become anything in the league, are we?
God wouldn't.
So, I don't think that. I think there's 5 guys in this class. Next year's got like 10, maybe 12 guys that could turn into starters, and obviously there's a lot to play out there.
Sure.
And it's not as top heavy. You can go back and look at the Cam Newton draft, right? There were 4 quarterbacks taken in the top 12 picks. All right. And you would think that would be a great quarterback class, right? But those 4 quarterbacks were Cam Newton, Jake Locker, Blaine Gabbert, and Christian Ponder. So you had one win out of there. You know what I mean? So as far as this being a great quarterback class or whatever, I just because the volume of quarterbacks taken in the top whatever is high doesn't necessarily mean it's a great class. That said, I've already kind of touched on the Trevor Lawrence stuff and where my concerns are there. I mean, dude's rail thin, takes a bunch of hits, and that bothers me a little bit. He doesn't have an elite arm. He's got a good arm, but he's such a quick processor, man. And I haven't seen somebody process like that since Peyton. Just so quick with the processing. So I think he's going to be successful, but you got to stay healthy. Zach Wilson, I like him a lot. He'd be number 1 for me, man. That dude is, nice. He's everything everybody wanted Johnny Manziel to be without any of the off field. He just kind of gets it. He's just got that knack, that sixth sense in the pocket, where he just knows when to bail, knows when to get outside, extend the play with his legs, and get downfield with his arms. I like him a lot. I think he's going to be highly successful if he can escape the New York curse, as it were. I'm a little bit less sold on Justin Fields. Know a lot of people love him, and I'm not trying to knock the kid. And I hated that stupid progressions nonsense that was out there. That was
total
garbage.
nonsense.
I was just like, what are you even talking about?
Yeah.
The things about Justin Fields that bother me is he struggles to identify exactly what's going on with pre-snap pressure sometimes. If you want an example of that, go to the Indiana tape. You see they'll show like boundary, and then they'll bring pressure from the field side, and he just sat there and ate it. Like he just didn't know what he didn't know what he was seeing. And then he holds the ball too long. Now, part of that is him. Part of that's a function of Ohio State's offense. When you have superior athletes at every position, you can afford to run an offense that's vertical developing option routes because you got great protection and superior speed, right? And so Ohio State kind of does that. And so that's part of that's a function of the offense. Part of that's a function of him. I'd also like to see him be a little bit more aggressive in running the ball. It felt like he would not use that athleticism to its fullest potential sometimes. So I think Fields will be fine in the NFL, but I'm a little lower on him than I think the average person is just because I've got those knocks. Trey Lance is like tall Russell Wilson, but super raw. Like if I got somebody that for a year that I can sit him and not touch him for a year, I'm all over that.
Okay. But
if you're the guy who's bringing him in to play year 1, you are setting yourself up to have that quarterback be the guy for the next staff that's coming in to replace you.
Yeah.
So that's my one knock on him. And then, we've been over Mac Jones. I mean, what are you getting? Are you getting Brian Hoyer or are you getting Tom Brady?
Yeah. Probably not Tom Brady. I'm just going to say that.
Well, what you said.
That's the implication.
Right.
With his body type coming out of college and everything too.
Right.
What you said about Lance, I think makes him particularly intriguing at number 3 for the 49ers, because say what you want about Jimmy. I agree people in the organization are probably down on him, but that is a situation where you could let Lance season for a year or half a year. You know what I mean? Put him on the bench. You don't have to rush him in week 1. So I think that makes him particularly intriguing.
I wonder if he lasts long enough to go to like Atlanta. That would be a good opportunity for him to sit back behind Matt Ryan for a year. I don't know if he'll.
It'll be interesting to see.
And I will say this: Terry Fontenot, the GM in Atlanta, that's his dude.
No kidding.
There's some internal conversation about what to do there. Like Arthur Smith wants Pitts. Arthur Blank is kind of like, well, maybe we should trade back because our salary cap situation sucks and we need more picks to fill in these holes over the next couple of years. But Fontenot, like Lance is his dude. So it's going to be interesting to see who wins out there in the first draft, who convinces who on their position. What was I going to say? With Lance, the one thing I will say about this, we talk about not seeing things off the field. And we talked about Mac Jones and his memory. Trey Lance is probably the smartest quarterback in this draft.
Oh, wow.
Football IQ wise. Like, he is wildly football intelligent. And, had incredible ability to sit there on the whiteboard and dazzle. So that's just one thing that I think the fans don't see. They talk about the athletic profile, but they don't get to see that. Yeah. I can tell you from dudes in the room, he's one of the smartest quarterbacks they've come across in the last decade.
Wow.
I was, you mentioned Johnny Manziel earlier. I was on a flight from Austin to Cleveland a couple years ago, and Johnny was drunker than I was on that flight. Dude, when I got off the plane, there was literally like just a stack of beer cans and like
no kidding,
fucking Tito's and shit like that. Jesus. Just laying. I was like, dog, you got a game in like 2 days. What are you doing?
Are you serious? Jeez Louise.
I don't even want to know what he did after he got off the plane and shit.
Good. Hey,
when knew him down at A&M, man, he was something else, man. He was
a legend in more than one way.
Yeah,
right. The joke there is that he was drunker than the pilot. So
there you go, man. I need to have you write some of my stand-up for me, man. Shit, you ever in Austin, let me know, man.
When you need to get back down there, man. I used to get down there on 6th Street all the time.
Let me know, brother.
Deli was still a thing.
Yeah. Let me know. We're not far from there, man, right now. Anytime you come down, I'll take you to a show.
Yep.
You can watch some average stand-up comedy, and
we can buy so much better than me that I'll be your biggest fan.
There we go, man. I'll buy you like 10 beers, man. We can just get shit hammered and drive around Austin.
Hey, and speaking of getting hammered,
good time. I'll schedule that vacation right now.
Dude, let me know, man. Let me know. I'll get a babysitter. Shit.
Speaking of that, all of our guests that come on the show, we send you a little taste of Austin.
Oh, he's gonna love this shit.
We're gonna be asking for your address after this, and we're gonna send you some Still Austin. It's our favorite distillery here in Austin, so you're gonna get a bottle of whiskey in the mail. So look forward to that. And when you're in Austin, check it out. It's a beautiful spot. They got food trucks, great outside seating venue, cocktails, etc.
Ben's like, you guys need a guest for next week?
Literally just thinking that. I'm like, well, what's your schedule for the rest of the month?
Yeah, you guys want to do some post draft talk, man? Because I know you guys are gonna need someone to talk about that.
Daily, man.
We just pay him in liquor. That's all, man. Yeah.
Hey, we'll work for booze.
Hey, Ben, on a serious note, when you're talking about sources and other organizations, I think that's kind of rare. A lot of folks are just covering one team, and that's their team. There's so much smoke right now this time of year. So 2 questions. One, how do you differentiate between what's bullshit and what's like legitimate information? And you're a young guy. I mean, in your short time as a reporter, have you kind of been duped yet where you got a source and you felt like, whether it's draft news or not, maybe about a trade, and you later found out like, no, they were fucking with me there, like that they used me for their own gain in that situation?
Yeah, I know I've got a baby face. I'm actually 40 years old, guys. So
no kidding.
That's not a joke. Okay? I don't look like I'm 15. You guys had to ID me before I got on the show.
Oh, yeah. Maybe we shouldn't send him that liquor just yet, man. We'll see. I don't know if he can smoke cigarettes. We'll see.
No, I nowadays not so much. Nowadays, I've gotten the relationships where they just don't do that to me. And part of it is because they want the information that I have. Like people use that term insider, which I hate, which is funny because now I'm actually inside the building. But, I hate that term because most people, I'm like, what are you inside of besides your wife? And that's questionable. I think for me, like I built up these relationships over time, and it's just funny. Like it's interesting. I was talking about this the other day with somebody, and it's funny because the greeting for me, like when I talk to people, is, "What are you hearing, Ben?" That kind of thing. People want the information that I have, and we kind of have like this trade relationship. Now, that's not to say I haven't been used before. I had a source, air quotes, with the Rams a couple years back. I had some good sourcing there, but I had this one person that worked with the Rams, and we just kind of started talking and kind of developing that relationship. And this dude was trying to sell me up and down that they traded up for Carson Wentz instead of Jared Goff.
Oh shit!
And I'm like, what are you doing? Like kind of thing. And so for me, like. And I'll tell you another story about somebody that hits a little closer to home. But that was one where I was like, okay, well, you're just not ever going to get information from me again. And that's kind of how I work. I'm like, I'm open to give you what I got until you fuck me, and then we're just not going to talk anymore.
Right.
And that's kind of how I work. I'm a loyal guy, and I demand that back, I guess. So I kind of fancy myself an information broker, and that's kind of the way I look at it, and it works both ways. As long as you're given information, people are happy to give it to you, and that's kind of been my thing. Is as long as I have that information to be able to give, I'm always able to get a little something back. There was a coach this is the weirdest cultivation of a source ever that approached me about some stuff because they were a bit embattled. And I don't want to get into which Hugh Jackson it was, but that was probably the weirdest situation that I ever had. That did not end well at all.
Dude, Hugh Jackson seems like a weird ass motherfucker, man. Like, I don't know. I don't want to ever hang out with that dude, like, ever. I watched the Hard Knocks. I watched a lot of interviews. He just did a recent interview on WKNR in Cleveland, 850 WKNR. A station I listened to a ton growing up. And he just seems like a weird fucking dude, man. Like, I don't know. I don't know that rightfully so that he'll ever have a job in the NFL again, unless the Bengals.
What is he doing right now? Is he coaching anywhere right now?
No, he's waiting for Marvin Lewis to get like a job so he can get on the coattails real quick. But yeah.
He was trying to get into I think the CFL XFL thing. What he's doing right now is he's actually headed over to Tennessee State to help out Eddie George over there or something. It's like a consultant or something.
Okay. I mean, a consultant that works for him. He's not doing the X's and O's. He does have football experience. He's been in the game a while, but I don't think that guy should ever be near a head coaching job again.
It was so Browns of them to hire his ass too. Like when they hired him, I was like, this is the most Browns thing I've ever fucking heard.
Do you not want to win?
Yeah, obviously not. You know.
And that was the thing. Like in Hard Knocks, you had Todd Haley, who's Todd, and I've got a story about that we can share on the show. Yeah. But Todd Haley's sitting in that room, like, we need to push these guys a little bit. They're lazy and pathetic, and we're losing our asses off and getting laughed at. And he was like, "Well, I'm actually the decision maker, and it's fine."
yeah. That's exactly what it is. That's exactly how it went down too in the meeting room. I actually like Todd Haley. I was like, yeah, dude, because it felt the same way. I was like, dude, these guys need to fucking get a fire lit under their ass. And he was like, hey, I'm the coach here, and if we're gonna suck, we're going to suck, all right? Don't worry about it. Don't fucking worry about it.
We're going to suck in comfort.
Yeah, exactly.
It reminds me, have you guys seen the scene in Office Space after he's hypnotized and he wakes up and he's just like, oh. He's got like 18 voicemails and all that. It's like that's maybe Hugh Jackson. Leadership style.
What's your Todd Haley story, brother?
Okay. Well, it's actually a me story, but it involves Todd Haley and Rob Ryan.
Oh shit! I already know this is going to come off the rails.
We were all down at the Senior Bowl in Mobile, Alabama, and I don't know if you guys ever been down.
Yeah, my mom used to live there.
Everybody kind of gathers at a bar called Veets.
Okay.
And kind of hangs out there and drinks, and so I was there, and because it's like the entire NFL gathers there for the Senior Bowl, the dude to girl ratio is absurd. Like it's like 1,000 to 1, whatever. And so like I'm sitting there drinking, this chick, like she's kind of drunk, local, kind of walks up, rolls up on me, and hey, and I'm like, hey, what's going on, that kind of thing. Get to talking. So couple hours, hour and a half later, and I see Rob Ryan sitting at the end of the bar. By the way, this dude's got 30 beer cans in front of him.
Him and Johnny Johnny Manziel need to have a drink off, man.
Dude.
Right. And he's seriously, like Rob Ryan's got the hair at the time, like the flowing hair.
Yeah.
So he's looking like fat drunk Gandalf at the end of the bar. and like Todd Haley looks like the missing link between Cro-Magnon man and like human being with that ridiculous jawline that he has and scowl. And so like they're both sitting at the bar, whatever. So this chick grabs me by the hand and takes me out to her minivan in the parking lot.
Her minivan?
See, you can see where this is headed.
And she's like, don't mind the soccer cleats. Just push those aside. It's no big deal.
Right. I'm sitting there knocking the bottom out of it in the minivan, some soccer mom. And all of a sudden I look up and they're looking at me like Jack Nicholson from Anger Management with the kind of nod thing is Rob Ryan and Todd Haley banging on the window right there, yelling out, "Get her done!" And I'm telling you, man, like if you've ever needed, like if you ever had that problem with Viagra where an erection was lasting longer than 4 hours, have those dudes look at you in the eye mid-pump, and I promise you that will end that problem.
He said knocking the bottom out of it.
Goodness gracious.
That's just hilarious, man.
That is top 5 all-time story I've heard in any venue, not just on this show, just period. Oh my goodness
hilarious, man.
It's a Senior Bowl. Every once in a while you'll see somebody on if you're on Twitter and you follow me long enough, you'll see somebody kind of reference that story every once in a while on Twitter. It happens once every couple of years. Somebody be like, "Remember the time?" And I'm like,
No. That's fucking hilarious, man. You're just like going down to the Senior Bowl. You're not even there to like watch the game and analyze players and everything like that. You're just down there slaying Tang at Veets and shit.
Work and play. You need a balance.
I wish I were the hero of this story, but
that's fucking hilarious, man. Oh, hey, brother, before we let you go, can you give us a bold draft prediction or just something that you think that some people aren't talking about that you think might happen in this upcoming draft?
Looking around, I see so many people have Penei Sewell like super, super high going at 5, and he might go to the Bengals, but I would not be shocked if he wasn't even the first offensive lineman taken. I wouldn't be surprised if like Rashawn Slater was taken ahead of him.
Oh, wow.
So just a heads up on that. It's entirely possible you could go the entire first 10 without a defensive player taken.
Jeez.
Although I'm pretty sure the Cowboys are on a corner. I'm pretty sure they're on Surtain. So, I think that's maybe there's a bold prediction for you. I don't know.
Yeah.
I think Sewell not going first. I mean, it's almost unanimous. Most people are pegging him first. That would be a pretty big surprise right there.
See Slater go there.
Wow.
Yeah, it's gonna. So, where can people? Do you have your mock draft out, or what do people have to do to see this, or are you just like going pick by pick, or what is it?
Just pay me $1 million. No, I'm just kidding. With the mock drafts, I do one every year. I got so tired of seeing dudes with like 60 mock drafts.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And like, I totally predicted this in my mock draft 34, revision 6A, subsection 2B or whatever. That's not skill. That's just throwing shit at a wall until you finally. So I do one every year, and I do it the week of the draft, and I put it out. Now I like with some of these teams, I do like kind of give them a copy of my mock draft a week in advance, give or take, like kind of what I'm thinking. Because some of these teams want to use it in their simulations, kind of stuff. And it's kind of a goodwill thing I get going. But
nice.
I don't put it out publicly till the week of the draft. Usually the day before the draft, although I've noticed that when I do that, all of a sudden people who have other mock drafts tend to change their mock drafts.
Oh yeah.
And so like I'm kind of debating whether or not to wait till the day of today.
Oh wow.
This year, just to do that. And I hate, because it sounds kind of arrogant and douchey. I don't mean for it too, but like I just hate it when people pass off other people's work as their own.
Yeah.
So
yep.
I would be too, especially when yours is so accurate and everything.
Yeah, man. So when it is released, I mean, will they find it on Twitter? Like where will people find it when it's released?
I'll put a link on Twitter wherever I put it up. If I put it up in my, if I'm a cheap ass, I put it up in my Google Drive, or if I let somebody put it up on their website or something. That's what I've kind of tried to do the last couple of years, is give some of these unknown websites, let them throw it up on theirs and like help drive some traffic.
That's awesome, man.
People can get more exposure.
That's really cool, brother. That's awesome. Sweet. We might have to tweet that shit out.
Absolutely.
But you can find him on Twitter at Allbright NFL. It's ALLBRIGHT NFL. Also BroncosCountryTonight.com. And if you are a single mother in Mobile, Alabama, watch the fuck out. He is coming for that ass.
You can reach me at Allbright NFL with my cell phone at 17.
You can check out his OnlyFans as well. It's single moms fucking cleats 27.
True story. True story. They reached out to get me to put my content on OnlyFans. Like they actually reached out for that. And I thought about it because I figured that would be on brand.
You should, dude. You could throw in a couple late night rendezvous into a fucking Toyota Avalon too,
Oh my goodness gracious!
Post my show on camera with like a bow tie and like the Chippendale outfit or something,
Why not, dude?
Nobody wants to see this sloppy body like that. But it's like a car crash. You can't look away.
Who knows, man? The Niners might be intrigued in picking number 3. They're like, hell, man, he looks better.
That's what I need. I need to get Mac Jones on the camera.
There we go.
Side by side, it'll be like the Swayze Farley,
There you go. Like, we'll go with Benjamin, man. He looks like he's in better shape. Anyways.
2 SNL references this show. I like it.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Good stuff. Hey,
Benjamin,
thank you so much.
Dude, you're the shit, man. You're cool as shit, man. This is awesome. If you're ever in Austin, we want to definitely have you on again sometime closer to football season, if that's cool. And anytime you're in Austin, man, hit me up. Seriously, we'll go out and fucking paint the town all kinds of colors, man.
Definitely. As long as we get some Stubbs first.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
I did a show like right beside Stubbs last night, man.
Yeah,
so.
Barton Springs, Pool, Stubbs, and still Austin. That's the trifecta, the holy trinity right there.
We're gonna hit like a fifth grade soccer game. Troll for some 45-year-old Tang. What's up? I'll just be your wingman. You know what I'm saying? I can do that for sure. But make sure
on brand, man.
Yeah, exactly. That's Benjamin Allbright. Like once again, you can follow him on Twitter at Allbright NFL. Broncos Country Tonight. Benjamin, thanks for coming on the show, brother. We really appreciate it. This was funny as hell, man. This was a super funny interview, man.
Love to do it anytime, guys.
Next time, if I'm
so
ever
much.
in Denver, man, I'm gonna buy you a couple J's. We're gonna just stroll down the Lodo district and just get shit hammered, man. How's that sound?
I live right by there, so this will be fun. We can make that. We can do that.
Let's do it, man, for sure. Awesome.
Take care.
Benjamin.
Thanks so much
We
for the
appreciate
time.
it, brother. Be
Take
safe,
care.
man.
Yep.
That's Benjamin Allbright. He is a analyst, reporter, host there for the Denver Broncos flagship station, KOA Colorado. Awesome, dude. That guy knows his shit, man. He knows so much about so many different teams and everything like that. I thought I spent way too much time watching and looking over sports and stats and everything like that. This guy knows his stuff, man. That was super informative.
It was impressive. I mean, he obviously knows the Broncos. That's a team that he covers. But to hear him talk about having sources on other teams was really intriguing to me.
That's crazy.
Yeah, and you can tell he knows his stuff. You can tell he's got inside information. I mean, even some of the times he'd clarify his statements, he'd say things like, well, I don't want to give too much away. You can tell
he's plugged in.
He's very plugged in.
That's probably why his mock draft is so accurate, man, because he knows these guys. And that's what a lot of it is, man. In sports, we've realized that, from being sports writers and everything for so long. It's about relationships, man. And he's a cool ass dude. And when you can talk to someone like that, they're going to feel a lot closer to him and they're going to want to divulge a little bit more information when you feel like you can trust someone and he's not going to, run his mouth or say something that's going to, give up his source. Yeah. And he's a cool ass dude, man.
For sure. And we bring on to this show, we don't just bring on any beat writer. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
We've got Grant Cohn coming up. We got the MGO blog. MGO blog, excuse me.
Cook,
say that 10 times fast. Brian Cook. These are guys who are reporters, but they're not in your traditional reporter mold, as you probably noticed from that interview.
Yeah, you
probably didn't listen to that interview halfway through and go, wow, that's probably a super professional corporate reporter right there.
Yeah.
You probably said, wow, this dude's very different.
He's probably hungover.
You're like, he's talking a little bit differently than a reporter typically does. And those are the kind of people that we like to bring on this show. I want to let our listeners know that because this is a new show. What they can expect going forward when we say we're bringing on guests.
Couldn't agree more, man. When we were looking for guests and everything like that, I was hitting up Twitter, looking at people and stuff like that. We could send out requests for any reporter we want, pretty much. And I was looking for guys that had strong opinions that, seemed, cool and funny. And he definitely fit the bill. I didn't realize he was that funny and that cool, but yeah, he's a cool ass dude, man. I definitely want to hang out with him sometime.
Sure.
Shit,
that was
he'd
a lot
give me
of fun.
some trouble. Shit, man, gotta stay away from that guy. Shit.
That was a lot of fun.
But so you want to check out his mock draft? He said it's super accurate. It's second most accurate in the world last year.
Yep.
So I'm definitely interested to see what he's got, where he's got everyone going. It's going to be interesting to see because he gave us a little bit of information there where he sees some of these quarterbacks landing, how he values some of the guys that Penei Sewell, who is in most mock drafts the first offensive tackle taken, you know, and so he's saying he's not totally sold on him. That's super interesting.
Yeah, well, did he say he's not sold on him, or don't be surprised if he doesn't go first? I don't know if that was his evaluation or just he's not be surprised if other teams do.
That's a good question.
But either way.
But so that'll be interesting, man. And that he doesn't not sure if a defensive player is going to be taken in the top 10 picks.
Yeah,
that's interesting as hell. And where does he say? He said. Dallas, I think, right? Was
cornerback.
Yeah, he's where's the draft order I got here? Where's Dallas is at 10. So so it could be first 9 picks. Dallas definitely has to go defense. If they don't go defense, I don't know what the hell's wrong with them. They need players on.
Anybody that watched that team last year knows the Cowboys.
It was one of the worst defenses in NFL history.
In the history of the friggin' league.
Yeah. And it was crazy because their offense still actually was pretty good with Dak out. I mean, obviously it's a big drop off from Dak to Andy Dalton. Yeah. But the offensive coordinator there, he was able to kind of keep things, to right the ship even after the injury. And it's going to be interesting, man. Hopefully, I got a lot of friends that are Cowboys fans, obviously, living in Austin. They're all hoping and praying that they get some defensive help because they were just atrocious last year.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
This is a super interesting draft, man. This is one of the most interesting drafts we've seen in a long, long time. And you see like the value building. You see the value for quarterbacks and everything too, because everyone realized. I mean, we've known this for years that you can't win without a great quarterback. But are some teams going to reach and pick some quarterbacks that maybe aren't worthy of a top 5 or top 10 pick? You see that Mac Jones. I feel like in most drafts, most years, Mac Jones is a late second round pick or something like that. What I mean? But
I don't know about that far back, but
shit. I don't know.
I don't know about the top 10. Yeah.
Like we haven't seen until Tua. We didn't see too many Alabama quarterbacks go too high in the draft. He didn't have the greatest year last year. I know he's injured a lot and everything like that, but I don't know. I could be wrong, but I would stay as far away from him as possible.
Yeah, I agree on that. With a top 10 pick, no doubt.
I just don't think that you can be a professional athlete and have a body like that. I'm not trying to like just bash him and fat shame him and shit. I'm just saying, dog, your job is to use your body. Your body has to be in tip top shape.
Yeah.
And for you to be looking all sloppy and lazy and shit like that, I'm just not going to invest a whole lot on you if you're not taking your workouts seriously, which it seems like he isn't. I just don't understand how the hell he got to Alabama with a body like that. But, talent, I guess, so.
Yeah. Talent in the brain. Well, I mean, he mentioned the brain and how impressive.
Very intelligent guy.
The memorization, the understanding schemes and the playbook and all that stuff that I'm sure that goes a long way. For
it really
preparation, that sort of stuff for sure.
Benjamin, what a cool dude, man.
Yeah, man. Two other things that stuck out for me for that interview that I love. One, the story about Von Miller not Von Miller, Shaq Barrett and subbing out in the Madden. I thought that was hilarious.
Yeah.
And then the other thing was, how about that story he told about Shanahan trying to trade up? I had never heard that. Mike Shanahan trying to trade up for Calvin Johnson. I had never heard that before.
How that would have changed the league at that time.
Oh my goodness gracious!
You got Megatron on that team.
My goodness gracious! In a different conference, and I'll tell you what. He didn't use that story to support my theory about the 49ers getting Pitts, because he later said, I actually don't think they're going to do that. But I got to tell you, it's adding fuel to the theory right now for me in my brain, because if Mike Shanahan regrets not doing that, he's got Kyle's ear and telling him that, and Kyle knows that story, I'm sure. He's like, I had the opportunity to do this. I was this close, like an evil genius.
That's
don't repeat my mistake. Go get him.
That's a great point, man. That very well could be. But I'm with Benjamin, man. I'm not sure that they're sold on Jimmy, Jimmy G. And I heard the same thing. I mean, I'm not as plugged in as Benjamin, but I've heard from people, fans as well, that said that, he was the main reason why they lost that Super Bowl. Obviously, there's a lot of things that had to go wrong for them to lose that when you have such a big lead. But there's so many throws. I watched him play a lot last year, man. There's so many times I just thought like simple out routes that he was just not able to make those throws.
Yeah.
I thought, this is a franchise quarterback. They're paying, he signed a $100+ million contract. This guy's got to be able to make these throws, man. You can't be getting paid this much and being thought of and wanting to be in the conversation of the best quarterbacks in the league, and you can't make simple, out route throws and stuff.
Yeah, so. Jimmy's got a little bit of that Teddy Bridgewater factor that I talked about earlier, that the people who do like him love him, and they swear by the intangibles, and they point at his win-loss record. That, his win-loss record is ridiculous. He won his first 6 games in a 49er uniform on a team that was atrocious.
Yeah.
And so the Jimmy G supporters will say, hey, don't look at the stats. The guy's a winner. He does what it takes to win. And I do think there's a little truth to that. I buy into that a little bit. I think I'm more bullish on Jimmy Garoppolo than a lot of other people who follow the 49ers.
I want to ask you that. You're a 49ers fan. What do you want them to do with that number 3 pick? And what do you want them to do with Jimmy G?
What I want them to do, I would love the Pitts situation that I mentioned earlier. I would love that. I don't think they're going to. I love the thought of it. I think they're going to draft a quarterback and then have almost, the Aaron Rodgers situation where you draft a quarterback and you let them look at each other in the friggin' meeting room, and you let Aaron Rodgers sweat a little bit. You let Jimmy G sweat a little bit. You think Jimmy G is not training his ass off like crazy right now. Just the thought of a quarterback getting drafted number 3, it's going to be a motivation factor. So I wouldn't hate that, but I'd rather they stick with Jimmy G. And I may be in the minority among 49er fans. I'd rather they stick with Jimmy G and give him another weapon like Pitts on offense. That's what I would like to see.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what happens with Kyle Pitts, because if that scenario doesn't take place where he goes to the 49ers at 3, you got Atlanta at 4. I mean, I could see them doing that, but they're also, Matt Ryan, I think he's in the last, couple years of his deal, if not the last year of his deal.
He's getting up there in age,
Yeah, he's getting up there in age. You got to start thinking about the future with him.
Sure.
And you got Cincinnati at 5 that doesn't need a quarterback. I guess you can see him going at 6 to the Dolphins with them. They've got Tua. I'm assuming that they're happy with him. They're going to give him some time and everything. So they might go and get a weapon for him. And you got Detroit at 7. So he's not going to last past 6 or 7. There's no way. And Carolina at 8, Denver at 9. But it's going to be really interesting to see what happens with him. It's going to be so interesting to see what happens after the third, starting with the number 3 pick. Because I think a lot of people are pretty sold on the fact that Zach Wilson's going to go number 2. And that's when the draft kind of starts, is number 3, man. So it's going to be interesting.
Just a few days away, man. The anticipation. We've all been waiting for this since the Super Bowl, really. We've been dying for that bite of football.
Yeah, one of the most anticipated drafts that I've remembered in my lifetime.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe it's just I'm anticipating a lot more now that the Browns are a formidable team and everything, and I'm really into it. But every time I turn on TV, man, it's the NFL draft, no matter where. So
when we were talking about quarterback classes, you know which one popped up in my mind?
What's that?
When we had Benjamin on? Remember 1999?
Yeah.
You had Tim Couch.
Yeah.
You had Achilles Smith.
Yeah.
Donovan McNabb.
Yeah.
And Dante Culpepper.
Yeah.
Now McNabb and Culpepper, they had their flashes, right? But
Culpepper had some good years in Minnesota.
Absolutely, no doubt. And
But
McNabb surely did.
Yeah.
But Achilles Smith and Tim Couch, and this is just from memory, I may be missing. I think there were maybe one or two other quarterbacks in the late first round, early second round that were big in there too.
Yeah.
But I remember that was like, this is going to change the league. There's these 5 or so quarterbacks that are young guys that are going to, be the next era. And boy, a couple of them didn't pan out. So be careful when you start mortgaging your future NFL teams.
Yeah, wasn't
on these guys.
Tim Couch and Achilles Smith, they were both on a cover of Sports Illustrated, and they're like,
same cover?
Yeah. Who the Browns going to take?
Gosh.
We need to know. Cade McNown was in that draft.
Oh, Cade McNown,
number 12.
My God.
Yeah, he went to 12 to the Bears. That was all in the first round. But
I forgot him.
Yeah, he went one pick after Dante Culpepper to Minnesota.
Wow.
So
Cade McNown.
Yeah,
wow.
Sean King in the second round.
Oh my God, the Bucks.
Man.
Holy cow.
Yeah, so people could be wrong. This has happened before. Everyone thought Tim Couch was a can't miss prospect. Achilles Smith as well.
Yep.
So it's gonna be interesting. That's what's so interesting about the draft. You never know how this stuff's gonna work out.
It'll be fun.
You think you get better on paper, and you have no idea. You could just fucked your franchise for the next 20 years, like the Browns normally do, and everything. That was an awesome interview with Benjamin Allbright. I want to thank him for coming on the show. Just a reminder, OddsShark is your source for the latest odds from leading authorities, expert editorial content, and detailed matchup picks. Stats, trends, in-depth analysis for upcoming games. OddsShark has it all, and it is absolutely free.
Yeah, seriously, folks, go to oddshark.com and start thinking like a shark today.
That's ODDSSHARK.com. Tony, this is a fantastic episode. We got another fantastic episode coming up next week.
I can't wait, man. 4-time Super Bowl champion Jesse Sapolo is going to be on this show, and that guy's got some stories to tell.
Oh, yeah. That's a guy we grew up watching a lot, too, man.
Yeah, he played with Jerry Rice, Steve Young,
Joe Montana.
Yeah. Roger Craig, Ronnie Lott, Charles Haley. Yeah.
I bet he's got some great stories that we're definitely gonna hear.
Yeah, man. The guy's a legend. I can't wait.
Yeah, so let's plug our social media. You can find us on every social media outlet at DNP-CD Sports. We're brought to you by Hot Pie Media. Go over to hotpiemedia.com to check out our past episodes, along with some of the other podcasts that they produce. They've got a lot of great podcasts that pretty much every topic you could think of, they've got over there.
Yeah, The Gray Area, which Chad co-hosts.
Shameless plug. It's a great show. I heard the host is hot as hell and funny as shit.
But seriously, they've got a lot of great content over there. Check out those podcasts for real.
Yeah, but thanks for watching the DNP-CD Sports Podcast presented by OddsShark. I am Chad Fisher for Tony Farmer. We'll see you guys next week.
Later.
Peace.
Thanks for listening. You can find more episodes and all other Hot Pie Media originals baked fresh daily at our home on the web at hotpiemedia.com, the Hot Pie Media YouTube channel, or wherever you listen to podcasts.